Welcome to my program. Welcome to my show. So guys, for you bastards out there, I watched almost 4 hours. Okay, I started it, a little bit of that after a while. Almost 4 hours of the two titans of intellectualism, Jordy, Joe. This summer, Jordy. People were talking about this on Twitter and all this crap, so I was like, hey, okay, let's give this a look. Probably squeeze some great content out of this one. Anything, especially like a 4-hour podcast, you'll find something you'll be like, okay, that's kind of interesting, maybe, Like there's a part where Jordy starts talking about Carl Jung, and I'm like, you know what? Probably not going to listen to too much of Jord on this one. But, but this is probably some interesting ideas, and I should go back and read some of those Carl Jung books. A lot of people, during his time, when he was famous, a lot of people said this to Carl Jung.
What a pervert.
And it led him to examine his shadow self, and he said, I am a pervert, actually.
The climate change one is a weird one, so
that's because there's no such thing as climate, right? Climate and everything are the same word. And that's what bothers me about the climate change types. It's like, this is something that bothers me about it technically. It's like, climate is about everything. So, okay, but your models aren't based on everything. Your models are based on warming. A set number of variables.
Yeah.
So that means you've reduced the variables, which are everything, to that set. Well, how did you decide which set of variables to include in the equation if it's about everything? And that's not just a criticism. That's like, if it's about everything, your models aren't right. Because your models do not and cannot model everything.
Yeah, hi, NASA. I just heard a pretty convincing case from a Canadian YouTuber that, you guys need to wrap it up. What qualifications does he have as a climatologist? Well, he uploads videos about how wearing a mask during COVID is the same as Nazis. Hello?
Much more that has to be accounted for. And so the probability that your prediction is correct decreases as you move forward in time. That's why we discount the future, right? So if you ask people, you want $5 now or do you want $5 in a month? They're going to say, well, I want $5 now. Well, you think, well, why is that? Well, if I have it now, it's certain. A month, well, there's a lag in there and anything could happen. And you can play games with people this way. And because people differ in the degree to which they discount the future, because how seriously to take the future is actually a near computationally impossible task to solve.
Hi, NASA. Yeah, it's me again. I just wanted you to, first of all, take down climate.nasa.gov/evidence, as well as all that other crap you guys been doing, because Jordy Peterson, ever heard of him, just explained that it's the same as if you get $5 later instead of now. Hello?
Classic example. There's a chicken, and the farmer goes out every day and feeds the chicken. And the chicken thinks, man, I've got a good friend in this farmer. And then one day it's dinner time, and the chicken's the main course, right? And so the poor chicken used induction to derive certainty. The farmer comes every day. He didn't realize there was a massive flaw in his theory. And one day that flaw reveals itself and everything falls apart.
Well, that makes sense. That makes sense when you're talking about chickens and farmers. But when you're talking about human beings and
so we could
CO2...
we could play a future discounting game.
Hi, NASA. Yeah, it's me again. I think there's something wrong with your phone. We keep getting disconnected. But I just want to see if you could take down that study that says climate change is going to start affecting crops in 10 years. Certain crops will go down by 20%. Can you take that down? Because, I was just watching a Joe Rogan Experience with Jordy Peterson, and he says that a chicken thought that he was going to get food again, but then the farmer ate him as his meal. He ate the chicken. Yes, he is wearing a tuxedo. Yes, I am wearing headphones.
And one day that flaw reveals itself and everything falls apart.
Well, that makes sense. That makes sense when you're talking about chickens and farmers.
Why?
But when you're talking about human beings and
so we could
CO2...
play a future. Well, we could play...
Jordan Peterson really is one of the most black-pilled mother cluckers, to bring back the chicken, on the planet. Because what he's saying here, if you just see through, I can do this kind of Jordy Peterson stuff. If you see through, if you're looking through this ideology, if you just look through what he's saying, all he's saying is Tina, baby. There is no alternative. There's no alternative. This is it. This is the best we could do. There's no meaningful human project to move toward. Trying to build some sustainable infrastructure or investing a bunch in some technology to try to deal with this. Nope. In fact, it doesn't even exist.
The fastest way to make the planet sustainably green and ecologically viable is to make poor people as rich as possible, as fast as we possibly can.
Bye-bye.
Because the thing about poor people is that, well, first of all, they're not resource efficient. They use a lot of resources to produce very, very little outcome. And so that's a problem. Slash and burn agriculture, for example. But even more importantly, when you're insecure on a day-to-day basis, you don't know where your next meal is coming from, you're not paying attention to the broader environment, that hated word, around you.
This definitely checks out. How do we deal with the climate crisis? Focus on these poor countries. Focus on these poor countries, these poor bastards. Rich countries, including the United States, Canada, Japan, and much of Western Europe, account for just 12% of the global population today, but are responsible for 50% of all the planet-warming greenhouse gases released from fossil fuels and industry over the past 170 years.
When I look at this news, I start having an anxiety attack, and it makes me cry.
Look, I watched so many minutes of this. I watched like 3 hours of this, okay? And when you spend 3 hours with a person, you're like, this is a person, you know? And there's a little moments where I'm like, I like Jordy Peterson. But I will say also that what he's saying here is borderline gibberish, they call it in the scientific community. Borderline gibberish.
If you are serious about the environment and even vaguely concerned about poor people, all of your policies would be devoted to making the poor rich as fast as possible. But that would violate the anti-capitalist presumption, let's say, that the reason for environmental degradation in the first place is, say, entrepreneurial and free market development.
So you guys out there, correct me if I'm wrong on this, or if I'm misunderstanding something here or something. But basically what he's saying is and he even says environment, if you're concerned about the environment, if you're concerned about the environment, what you need to do is you need to do more capitalism. In these countries that are not doing it, they need to do it. Don't we have a test case for this? And again, I'm a common moron, okay? I'm the Joe Rogan of my time, many call me. But we have a test case for this, right? So this is from May 2021. Report. China emissions exceed all developed nations combined. So, I mean, but correct me if I'm misunderstanding what he's saying here. Because I'm almost like I must be misunderstanding what he's saying here. The other thing that feels so scammy about this is that Jordan Peterson gets into a whole back and forth with Joe in this. My boy Jordy gets into it with Joe back and forth about just global capitalism. They start talking about it. They're going back and forth. Joe's pushing back. He's like, well, you know, they ship all these jobs overseas. Blah, 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 blah. They go back and forth. Jordan Peterson backed out of a debate with, where is he, this guy?
Make pee-pee.
Where?
Toilets.
Okay, now that makes sense. He backed out of a debate with Richard Wolff, right? If you want to really get a dialogue going, why not talk to that guy? Why not talk to a guy who's like really ready to have that, who's been spending his whole life ready to present that side of the argument? Oh, no. I'll go on Joe. I'll go on Joe so I can seem smart, because I'm just like talking down to a guy who's like has no preparation for this crap, and I'm not, and I never get it's seriously challenged. It just feels a little bit scammy to me. It's like I can go here. I know I'm not going to get challenged that much. I can repeat my talking points.
The United States has cut its carbon emissions 15% in the last 20 years. It's going down, not up, down. Why? Fracking.
Fracking.
Yeah, fracking.
Really?
This thing that environmentalists hate. It's like, don't frack.
It's a double-edged sword, right? Because fracking has definitely polluted some water supplies.
Not really.
No? It hasn't polluted any water supplies?
Look.
Did you ever see
everything pollutes something. And so the idea that there's any source of energy that we can derive...
Wait, let's see that again.
Right? Because fracking has definitely polluted some water supplies.
Not really.
No? It hasn't polluted any water supplies?
Look.
Did you ever see
everything pollutes something, and
yeah, but it's polluted some water supplies, right? No, not really. It's never polluted water supplies? Well, everything pollutes something. Jordy! I mean, if I had an audience of like, I don't know, millions or whatever that Jordy Peterson, I would be like am I getting this stuff right? Am I making mistakes? You gotta kind of hand it to Jordy. He just kind of doesn't give a crap. He's like, whatever. All this NASA's fake, all these NASA studies, and all this scientific crap is fake because I don't like it. Kiss my ass. I'm Jordy. This is from 2020, December 2020. Compendium of scientific, medical, and media findings demonstrating risks and harms of fracking. Public health harms now linked with drilling, fracking, and associated infrastructure include cancers, asthma, respiratory distress, rashes, heart problems, and mental health problems. Multiple studies of pregnant women living near fracking operations across the nation show impairments. You would think he's sort of interested in this. He's so interested in the development of children. Impairments to infant health, including birth defects, preterm birth, and low birth weight. In sum, the vast body of scientific studies now published on hydraulic fracking in the peer-reviewed scientific literature confirms the climate and public health risks from fracking are real and the range of environmental harms wide. Our examination uncovered no evidence that fracking can be practiced in a manner that does not threaten human health directly and without imperiling climate stability upon which public health depends. I was reading an article that posted a bunch of Jordy Peterson tweets. He tweets a lot of PragerU climate denial crap that's all directly linked to fossil fuel companies and all this stuff. And in the article, they were trying to figure out what's the deal? What's his interest in this? It could just be some kind of weird contrarian thing, or maybe he's found out that the audience, the kind of conservative audience that he's going for this more. But man, when you get into stuff like fracking is no problem. And there's every study clearly seems to indicate it's a pretty big public health problem. You gotta think I hope you're making money off of this, Jordy. Because if you're not, what are you doing, you little turd, you?
What do you do with people who would have been really good at working class jobs but aren't going to be good in a knowledge economy? And the answer is, we don't know, which is not a very good answer. And the idea that we could just somehow give them money, you can't solve people's problems by giving. I had a client who had a cocaine problem, and he was rather intellectually limited, this client. And this guy in particular, it was so interesting because he wasn't doing too bad when he had almost no money. But he got a disability check because he'd been hurt at work. And every time he had a disability check, he was gone for 3 days on a cocaine and alcohol binge, and he'd just drink up all his money. Then he'd end up in a ditch somewhere, really 80% dead, and then eventually dead, because eventually it was that kind of behavior that killed him. But more money, he would have just died sooner.
Oh, man. Jordy! Laying out the hard truths. These are hard truths, but they're truths. If only there were a large body of research on this. Oh, what's this? Here's one of many from NPR. California program. This is from 2021. This is from months ago. California program giving $500 No strings attached stipends pays off, study finds. Great headline. Here's the details. This is in Stockton, California. It gave 125 people living in neighborhoods at or below Stockton's median household income the unconditional monthly stipend of 500 bones. I'll take those bones right now. If I was in this program, it would be like, they give it to 125 people. If I were in this program, it would be like 124 people use this to lift themselves out of poverty. But one guy bought a theremin and a cameo from the Island Boys. So it's not a totally successful experiment. A study of the period from February 2019 to February 2020 concluded by a team of independent researchers determined that full-time employment rose among those who received the guaranteed income and that their financial, physical, and emotional health improved. Thank you. But there's like multiple studies that all come out with the same outcome, which is poor people are very desperate, and having money helps them get out of poverty. It just shows that Jordy doesn't really care about like actually figuring this stuff out. Like he's set on a either actually believing an ideology that doesn't fit with reality or research or anything, or he's just saying this because the people who give him this like it. But I mean, that's it though. I mean, I think most people know that this guy is not, despite having all these millions of fans and talking about this stuff all the time and always getting all this stuff wrong, people still like him. They're like, I like him because he gives self-help advice I could find in pretty much any book at the bookstore, and far more concise too. Like if you read like the 4 Agreements or some crap, you'll get like even better advice, but quicker. Not a lot of fluttery hands and a bunch of bull crap. So there we go. Just a little peek into the clash of the great minds. Joe,
Jordy.
This summer, Joe and Jordy will get together to
take the towers down now.
Oh!
Well, guys, before we go, I just want to remind you that
you're just going to have to get used to COVID.
You're a moron. You're a moron.
Well, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you later, and bye-bye. Hey, guys, you're only getting a fraction of the weekly shows. If you want a new motherfucking episode every day, subscribe on Patreon for as little as 2 bones. You get the patron-only Tuesday and Thursday shows, the Bookablega show where we look at important books, and the goddamn weekly behind-the-scenes show. And for only 25 bones, you could become a producer and get your name up here. Look at these people. These people make this show possible. If it wasn't for them, nothing. We don't have a show. We got nothing, and it's garbage. And we have to just leave. We have to just basically walk away. And we don't even really know where we're walking. That's the truly troubling part about all this. But please, become a patron today for as little as 2 bones, or 5 bones is another level, or 10, or you go the full 25 and you get up here. Big special thanks to these people. Love you guys so much.